Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
And so comes our way the second semi-final. A place in the final to play New Zealand up for grabs as Australia and Pakistan descend in Dubai in what is proven to be a venue where tosses have been decisive. Will that be the case in the semi-final, or will the trend break? Speaking of trends, Pakistan have gone into the semi-final unbeaten, but they come up against a team they just do not beat in knockout games at ICC events. Should make for a cracker. Australia versus Pakistan on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Tom Moody's here, so too Mahela, Jayawardene, and Ajit Agarkar. This has been a naughty venue, Tom, in terms of tosses. 8-1 for the team that's chasing. Aaron Finch has won today's toss. He's going to bowl first. How does that affect things for you as the second semi-final is upon us?
I think firstly, psychologically, it's the first win for Australia. Obviously teams go into any match sort of understanding what the percentages are around about chasing or defending totals. I think also there is the risk of dew. So getting your bowling done before that sort of becomes an influence is also an advantage. The first strike, if I could put it that way, has been made by Australia just by pure luck of a toss of a coin.
Does it change in a big knockout game, Ajit? We have spoken yesterday, and you said even teams that did bat first in Dubai still haven't put all the runs on the board. But we all get the impression from the outside that it's just so lopsided if you win the toss.
It seems to be that way, and especially if the dew come in. Not just the dew. I mean, we saw last night as well. The pitch did start a little bit different to what it plays in the second inning. Seems to sit down as the game goes on. And if that happens, Australia's bowling is pretty formidable. So Pakistan will have to bat well. Hopefully the pitch is good from ball one, and Pakistan can set a good score. And then with their bowling, even if there's a bit of dew around, Australia's batting hasn't. Okay, Warner started to look back to his best, but there are still some question marks on their batting, so they can put them under pressure if there are enough runs. But there's no doubt that toss is an important one, particularly in Dubai, with the way the games have gone. Hopefully, Pakistan can put a competitive total.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Mahela, through the Super 12s, 8 out of 8 for the teams chasing. There's a semi-final today. There's a final in Dubai. Does it augur well for the tournament if you have such important games at a venue where the toss seems to play such a big part?
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that it's probably a psychological thing as well with teams. Hopefully, it's not going to be the case when it comes to semi-final and final. But if the dew is going to make a huge difference, I think it's a bit unfortunate, especially in a World Cup. But everyone came into the tournament knowing that the dew is going to be a factor in November in UAE, and I think Pakistan, having lost the toss, have to put that to a side and go out and play the games the way they've handled certain situations. The last game as well in Sharjah, I know the opposition, even though it wasn't great, they batted first just to get that tempo going. So I think it's just that pass score, try and get to that pass score and try and defend that. But Tom's right. I think for Australia, it's a good first win to win that toss, because they come into the game as probably not the favorites to win, but this toss is going to make a bit of psychological dent.
Yeah, absolutely. You think Pakistan have been the red hot team, 5 of the semis unbeaten. We did see, and you could say, a bit of an upset yesterday as the team that finished second in their group beat the team that topped it. So will there be a repeat today? Now, Pakistan they have the win over Australia recently in T20 eyes, if that matters at all. Since 2016, they lead. The overall numbers are 13-9. Pakistan have enjoyed some time at the top of the T20 rankings at number one as teams go. But, Tom, we have read about how this is a bogey team almost for Pakistan in the form of Australia. Through the years, they've just not been able to get the better out of them at ICC events. Could that still be in play today?
Well, Australia historically have got a very good record in ICC events, so they understand the pressure, they understand the importance of it, and the importance of remaining calm in these types of situations. And that's not taking anything away from Pakistan, because Pakistan, in their own right, have had their success in some major events. I just would be a little bit concerned if I was a Pakistan supporter, given I suppose the smooth run they've had to this point, and you got to take your hat off to the reason they've had a smooth run is because they've played well. But sometimes in a tournament like this, you need to have a little bit of a rocky moment in your campaign just to set sail towards that final post. And my concern for Pakistan is that little rocky moment. Is that going to be today against Australia in Dubai?
Are you getting that feeling, Ajit? We keep repeating it that no team has gone unbeaten in the semi-finals. You can't really control what's in front of you. But Pakistan have had easy wins. There's been Indian sides in the past that have had easy wins and fallen short in a knockout game. So what is Australia almost in a better position in the semi-final than Pakistan as a team?
I think the toss certainly has helped Australia's case. There's no doubt. I think their bowlers, we've seen what Stark, Cummins, and Hazelwood, if they get it right, can do. And Pakistan, because their openers have played so well, they perhaps the middle order has not had that much pressure to deal with. And like Tom said, maybe they haven't been tested as much as you liked. Even once in the competition, maybe against Afghanistan was the only one where Asif Ali came and hit those 460s at the end. Was were they tested a little bit, but they've been so good, particularly their top two. There's been very little pressure. So if Australia can prize that out, I think again they'll be so much dependent on that. Plus losing the toss, plus because of that, knowing that you need to get 10 or 15 extra, maybe even more. All that certainly adds to the pressure that the toss has got on Pakistan. The good thing is though, a lot more players in form than not in Pakistan, which is always a positive going into a big game.
Absolutely. The key has been to put runs in Dubai, and we've not seen that yet in this tournament. So I want to ask Mahela and then Tom and Ajit too, what's the template to bat first in Dubai? Before that, let's look at Pakistan's batting because it seems to have whatever you want going into a semi-final. If you want to try and put runs on the board, they did win the toss and bat first to test their batting lineup, and these are their opening partnerships so far. Babar and Rizwan have been outstanding at the top. There are 200-run partnerships, and almost always they've seen out the first 4 or 5 overs. They have gone slowly in some power play games, but they pick up. If we just look at how that strike rate improves, they've got the likes of Rizwan, they've got Asif Ali and Shoaib Malik, all of whom that have struck well towards the end. Some of those numbers will be against teams like Namibia and Scotland. We'll just put up those numbers in a second. But they have Hafiz in form, Mahela. They have openers in form. Asif Ali's in form. You think if any team is placed well to bat first, it is Pakistan. But what will be the template here where it's been tough batting first?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their batters had more opportunities and they've actually executed pretty well through the tournament. But it's a semi-final. I mean, we saw that England yesterday as well. They were a bit tentative when they batted first. You could see the nerves. So it's all about how you handle those nerves, how you come out and execute. I think Baba Assam is going to be very crucial for them at the top. What's his mindset? What's his tempo? That is going to set uh, that calmness around that batting order. Rizwan's going to come and play his natural game. That's how he plays. What someone we haven't seen is in form is Waqar Saman, but I think we've all seen him play. He seems to turn up for those big games sometimes and just play naturally. So Pakistan have a lot of options under their belt. I just believe that they've got something special. How to bat in UAE conditions. Of cricket in UAE, the wicket's not going to scare them. The venue is not going to scare them. It's like their second home. So I think not like other teams, Pakistan have that ability to bat first and put runs on the board.
Tom, are you looking at numbers here because it's so hard to bat first? So this tournament is proven as to where you'd like to be at the end of say 10 overs, 12 overs. We've seen Pakistan do that at Sharjah, where we thought it was also challenging at times to bat first. They had a fairly limited score, maybe run a ball, but they didn't lose wickets. Is that one way you try and set a template of how to bat first in this sort of game?
Yeah, look, I think you set the template based around what your strengths are as a side. And to me, Pakistan's strengths are based around that strong foundation from their opening pair. And there's an element of conservativeness with their approach. So at the 10th over, you would be okay if they're operating in a range between 6.5 to 7.5 and over, knowing that they've got wickets in hand to be able to really push that back 10 overs and try to get to 160 total. If the concern for Pakistan is in those first 10 overs, if they've lost 4 wickets, that then is really going to expose how they finish the game, and reaching that 160 plus is going to be very difficult.
As we look at them batting phase wise, you'll get that point illustrated. Asif Ali's done a lot of the heavy lifting at the end, so too is Shoaib Malik. Now, these are all numbers again against Scotland and Namibia, so you put that in perspective. Of course, these guys didn't get a lot of batting time against India and New Zealand because the openers have done so well. But that's what we've got for Pakistan in terms of their run rates, and it's 50 at the end. They start slow, power plays just under 6, middle overs around 8. You take that. They're also now up against an in-form bowling attack, Ajit. Josh Hazelwood's numbers been outstanding. Pat Cummins seems a strikingly improved bowler from these conditions last year in the IPL. Who's the biggest threat to Pakistan today?
I mean, don't forget Zampa. Really, I think he
Yeah.
perhaps has gone under the radar, but he's done such an important job for Australia, bowling through the middle and bowling against some real power hitters and bowling really well. So, I mean, the wickets tell you the story. Of course, he's got a fifer in there, but even so, I mean, that economy is exceptional for someone who bowls through the middle, which is what stifles batting liners. But it is going to be the quicks at the start. I think one of the things that Pakistan, I'm sure they know these conditions probably better than most teams. Mahela said that this is like their second home. You saw the England West Indies game first up. West Indies getting under for 55. But the ball did a little bit at the start of the innings. India getting bowled out for 110. That is not what you want to do. You want to still consolidate. And if you have wickets in hand, perhaps it starts getting a little bit easier because it is going to be a tough challenge. I think the Australian quicks are bowling well and they will pose a challenge. Mitchell Stark will swing the ball back at speed to both right-handers, and that is a challenge to any batsman in the world, whether you're in form or not. So they'll have to be mindful of. I think Pakistan, if they don't lose wickets, then they'll still get to a score which their bowling can then defend. If they lose a couple early, it could be a different story. And we saw those numbers of the middle order, but that was a lot against spin as well. Malik the other day, and that this today is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, you got Zampa, who's really striking well. Now, you look at all the bowlers with the best strike rates in this World Cup. Zampa's right up there. You think, Tom, if he had to pick an opposition lineup for a big knockout game, he'd pick one with 5 right-handers in the top 6. So Zampa's numbers against left-handers are pretty good too, but he wouldn't mind bowling to Pakistan.
Yeah, look, absolutely. He'd welcome that, and he'd also welcome the fact that he's bowling first and not bowling second with a threat of potential dew. As Ajit said, Zampa's sort of one of those unsung heroes. Everyone talks about, the Australian paceman, but to me, Zampa's been the glue of this bowling attack. He's held it together. He's taken wickets, but he's not only done that, he's done it with a miserly economy rate. So you couldn't ask for anything more of your key spinner, and particularly given with the combination that Australia have gone in with, and that's not playing Ashton Agar and Zampa. So he is really holding, the total responsibility of the spin duties with the part-time support of Maxwell.
I have asked Tom this, I think, Mahela, about where he places Adam Zampa 20 spinners today, because you think Rashid Khan, Adil Rashid's name gets mentioned in T20 eyes. Zampa's name doesn't always pop up if we say who's the most dangerous leg spinner or wrist spinner in T20 cricket. Is this tournament going to change that perception at least? Where do you rate Adam Zampa? Where do you put him today?
I think when it comes to top leg spinners, he's probably pretty much there in that top 5, 6, I guess. I mean, the last 2 years, I think he had a bit of hot and cold tours where he couldn't, get his rhythm going. But I think lately, the last 2 years, he's been very consistent, and the name doesn't get mentioned because where he doesn't come and play much cricket. In franchise cricket, it's just the big bat. And then when he's playing for Australia, but Tom's quite right. I mean, he's that glue. Like they use him in the power play if they need to be, if they're under pressure. He can come and do that. He bowls in the middle, and he's been the one that things for them. So it all depends on how Pakistan batsman who plays spin reasonably well handles him and put pressure. But he's done remarkably well for Australia, and one of the reasons that Australia is in the semi-final is purely because of Sampa's this T20 World Cup.
Yeah, it does seem like Australia are a bowling unit, Ajit, where everyone's getting their roles pretty clear. Josh Hazelwood's been in great form. You look at his numbers. And after that, I'll just bring up Pat Cummins' numbers too. This is Josh Hazelwood, most wickets in the power play in the Super 12s, at least joined with Moody, but he's been terrific even if you look at his form for CSK in the IPL in similar conditions. Pat Cummins seems to have been relieved of the role of bowling with the new ball. His economy rate's 10 in the first six. It improves significantly in the middle, and he does a pretty decent job of it at the end too. So you have the option of Stark and Hazelwood, new ball, Ajit, and Cummins in the middle. Is it all just working as a role? Or are you surprised to see those numbers from Pat Cummins with the new ball?
Uh, yeah, exceptional numbers. Actually, you're a little bit surprised for sure, but that's also because what Australia did up front in the innings. They got lots of wickets, so then bowling towards the end of the innings becomes a little bit easier. Even so, I think they've gone against West Indies, they've gone against some of the good hitters, and they've managed to do that. I think again role clarity sometimes. So you sort of tend to mentally prepare yourself. That is exactly what you need to do. Hazelwood doing a bit of what Vokes does at the start of the innings, bowling up front with the new ball because of how accurate he is and the bounce, that extra bounce that he gets is a wicket-taking option. And Cummins is obviously playing the support role really well. But those numbers towards especially the end of the innings are very good. That sort of relieves so much pressure from Stark as well, who certainly does that job. Hazelwood perhaps bowls just the one over, but Cummins doing as well as those numbers suggest towards the end of the innings must be a real plus for Australia.
What we do have is an inform bowling attack, no doubt, Tom. But they went with the four bowlers and then the part timers. Today we spoke of matchups and we said Zampa's going to enjoy himself, but you also have Maxwell with a lot of right handers. How do you see things going today? What sort of approach are Pakistan likely to take against that fifth bowler and four bowling option of Australia?
Well, there's no doubt they'll target their fifth bowler. But to me, I don't consider the combination of Maxwell Stoinis and Mitch Marsh as part-time. I think any
Yep.
any T20 side would be comfortable with them as their fifth bowling option, with them sharing that responsibility. They're all going to have better days, and also you're also going to have conditions that are going to suit some bowlers against others, and as you just mentioned, matchups with left-right handers. I think what Australia might do, that is Aaron Finch might do, is look to use that fifth bowler when the game is just sort of drifting a little bit. When we know that the opening pair is one, and Bubba can take a little bit of time being conservative and setting themselves in their innings. That might be an opportunity to get one or two overs out, put them under pressure to say, well, okay, we know you're trying to get set. We know what your game plan is and how you've approached it. We're gonna bowl Mitch Marsh for an over now, or we're going to bowl Maxwell for an over. We're going to throw the onus on you to take this over on, because we know more than likely with your planning, you've identified our fifth bowler, the 24 balls that we need to get out. You're going to try to target and try to get them at a minimum of 10 and over. So you're then using it strategically. Okay, well, you know that you're going to try to do that, but you're probably not expecting to have to do it so early in your innings to put you under pressure. So you're throwing it back at them.
Are we likely to not see Maxwell bowl today, Mahela?
I think they'll still use Maxwell. I mean, not 4 overs for sure, but I think tactically, I mean, if there's a lefty, there's Faka Saman who's going to bat at three. So they will definitely use him because he bowls well against right-handers as well. He's not a bad off spinner because he doesn't turn the ball, taking it away. As like Tom said, it's how you want to use it. Like sometimes if you're trying to buy a wicket, it's not a bad option. He might go for few runs, but there's a good clear chance that he might pick a wicket. So, but he's never going to be a four-over bowler unless Pakistan really bad. I think Finch will use Stoinis and Marsh as that option, but definitely at least 1 over of Maxwell.
Now you think of Pakistan. The reason they probably have 5 out of 5 also is there's pretty much no area that we're looking at that still needs work or hasn't been tested or hasn't shown form in this tournament. Mohammad Hafiz too. We thought maybe the middle order hasn't got some runs. Shoaib Malik got a blistering 50 in the last game of the Super 12s. Hafiz has been excellent. And Ajit, it's very curious because there are a lot of guys that went into the World Cup lacking form. Hafiz was one of them. Things seem to have changed after the initial squad announcement to then what they possibly saw, as we've heard from Shan Masood in the IPL, and changed the squad up. And everyone seems to have just done their role. If they just got it bang on right, if they exceeded expectations for you?
I mean, you look at those numbers. Really, that's just 84 runs there, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the strike rate looks good, and perhaps the numbers that they bat, that's all they need to do, and they'd be hoping that's all they need to do tonight, so they don't get in too early. But this is going to be a different challenge. I think against India they were never really tested because the top two got the runs. New Zealand not quite. So the two sort of big teams, if you like, in that group, they weren't quite tested. If the wickets fell early, if that happens tonight, will be the real test. I mean, there's quite a lot of experience in that middle order with Shoaib Malik and Hafiz and quality. Whether they can do it against Australia tonight, we'll have to wait and find out. The number, the cameos that they've had will certainly help their confidence. But today is going to be a different challenge. So as good as those numbers look, if he has to come in early, Pakistan might be in a bit of trouble.
Mahela, what will Australia test of them that, say, India and New Zealand haven't? The other teams, with due respect to them, but what can Australia test of Pakistan that, say, the big teams haven't quite tested yet?
Sorry, Ranuk, there was a bit
That's
of
all right. I think I'm back now. Yeah, sorry. I'll just repeat that. What can Australia test out of Pakistan that, say, an India or New Zealand haven't? Those are the only two big teams they played. What's possibly different here?
Well, I think one thing that Australia has, which probably New Zealand and India didn't have, was a bit of bounce and extra pace. I think on a Dubai surface, if you come and hit that, Hazelwood, Stark, Cummings, all three going to get some more bounce, and they will generate a bit more pace as well. So that's something that Pakistan will have to be mindful of, especially. I mean, Baba Assam's technique is quite solid, but the middle order, whether they be able to handle that extra bit of bounce, if there's any pace on that wicket. So I think that's what Australians will be lining up with the new ball, get a wicket and get it in the middle order, not give that middle order too much of spin, and then they can use likes of Stoinis and Marsh as well, and not show so much of spin. And Sampa is quite capable to manage himself. He's a good bowler, but not too much of max.
We've spoken of Zampa, we've spoken of Cummins, we've spoken of Hazelwood, Tom. Sometimes we forget about Mitchell Stark these days because he tends to blow hot, blow cold. But my word, if there is a man who's ready for a big ICC event, Mitchell Stark is still one of those big match players for you?
Oh, without a doubt.
Hmm.
Mitchell Stark, I think gets, harshly criticised at times for whatever reasons. You look at his record; it's quite extraordinary. His record, his ability to take wickets in the power play, his ability to be able to defend at the back end of the innings. He's you'd have him in your side any day of the week. And if the ball does swing early on, he'll be looking to bowl that 150, delivery, swinging back into both the right-handers for Pakistan. So you may recall that that delivery that knocked over Brendan McCullum in the World Cup in Australia, the 50 over World Cup. That would be the ball that he'd be visualising, and he would have visualised over the last 24 hours in preparation for this contest. He'll
Yep.
be praying, like every other bowler in this World Cup, that the ball does swing for at least 2 or 3 overs.
Yeah, at times all it needs is 2 or 3 balls. If Mitchell Stark gets it right, even a 31-year-old Mitchell Stark, as against the 26-year-old Mitchell Stark, could have a say in this game. Tom, carry on. Lead the way and tell us the creative first inning score. It was 167 yesterday. You got it close. You got it. You were closer than the other
Yeah.
two. What's it going to be today?
143, Ranok.
Yeah, and that's below par, isn't it? Ajit Agarkar.
155.
All right, Mahela Jayawardene.
I'm going to go at 160 actually.
Okay, let's see who's closer. Let's pick up the chat at halftime. Thank you, Mahela, Tom, and Ajit. Should be a fascinating game, really. Australia and Pakistan is a mouth-watering contest, especially in an ICC World Cup semi-final. And of course, before we leave you on this pre-show, some stunning visuals once again from the host cities in the UAE, powered by Dell.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.